Sakura is not useless, and I'm tired of people saying this. If you've been around the community for even a small amount of time, you'd more than likely come across the phrase Sakura is useless, but what does it mean to be useful? In my personal opinion, to be useful, you have to either A, be a necessary existence for the progression of the story with a designated role that's integral to the series, or B, have done things that allow for the progression of the story but may not be intrinsically important to the narrative. For example, if you were trapped in a burning building and a regular old Billy Bob from down the street ran in and rescued you, you wouldn't turn around and say he's not useful just because anybody could have done it. The mere fact that he did something that helped you, even if he wasn't the only person that could, is grounds enough to make them a necessary existence for your survival. Sakura falls into the latter category since her existence isn't personally relevant to the story. However, through the actions that she takes, she makes herself a necessary existence, which is why today I've gathered every single useful moment of Sakura and we're gonna go over them one by one to explore why Sakura is verifiably not useless. I'll also be operating in respect to her role in the series, that being a support main, so things like assists, heals, and saves are gonna take priority over fights. But before we begin, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. We're shooting for 10k. Now, when looking at Sakura's importance throughout the series, a good place to start is her actively keeping the main characters alive, and she does this through two ways, either directly saving them or through medical ninjutsu, but we will cover the former first. In chapter 11, after scouting out Team 7, Zabuza throws his executioner blade at the group, forcing them to take cover. Naruto is the last one to react, and as such, Sakura is forced to tackle Naruto to save him from being decapitated. In this moment, if Sakura did not react in time, Naruto dies and the series ceases to exist. You could try to make the argument that Kurama would have saved Naruto, however Kurama with Naruto has never been shown to heal a severed limb, much less regrow someone's entire head. The most we've seen from Naruto's Kurama is him healing a hole through Naruto's chest, however that's very different to a severed head, especially since decapitation would almost instantly kill you. This would also make reattaching the head useless, since even if we grant that Kurama can heal a severed head, Naruto would have long been dead by the time they all got up to go and check out his body. Another argument you could make is that Kurama would have protected him before the blade hit him, but Kurama has never been shown to do anything like that before Naruto befriends him. Sasuke was able to beat Naruto senseless and plunge a hole into his chest before Naruto even began using Kurama's power. In fact, Naruto had to be the one to protect himself since Sasuke's goal was Naruto's heart, and Naruto would personally deflect the attack to his lungs with his own hands. Later on in the Forest of Death, Sakura saves Naruto from falling to his death after he got knocked out by Orochimaru. Naruto would have died from this fall, and we know this because Orochimaru had just put the 5-prong seal on Naruto's tetragram seal to block the Nine-Tails chakra from leaking out. It's stated that it's the power of the Nine-Tailed Fox that gives Naruto his heightened recovery speed, which means that if Naruto fell, he wouldn't be able to just heal the damage. This is coupled with the fact that he's currently unconscious, which also means that he can't mold chakra and thus cannot protect himself using chakra control. But even if we were to grant that he would survive the initial fall, you have to remember that they are still in the Chunin exams with other participants running around. So with Naruto being in a borderline vegetative state, it's highly likely that he would be killed immediately upon being found by any random Genin squad. But following this incident, Sakura doesn't just stop there and protects Naruto and Sasuke's bodies the whole night while they were unconscious. She also saves Lee from being killed by Dosu, but honestly that one could have been left alone, nothing of value would have been lost. Immediately after this, she gets attacked by the two other Sound Genin, where she initially fights a 1v2, but the female shinobi retreats, forcing Sakura to fight the Sound Shinobi one-on-one. She tanks around 4 kunai to the body before slamming the guy to the ground, which buys her enough time for Team 7 to come and rescue them. And while yeah, she didn't beat them, it is extremely unreasonable for anyone to expect her to fight multiple people, especially especially while protecting her 3 comrades. Another moment that often gets overlooked is her taking Gaara's hit in Sasuke's stead, and this should be pretty cut and dry. Sasuke at this point is incapacitated from his fight with Gaara and cannot defend himself, which means that an attack from partially transformed Gaara would have most likely killed him instantly. She is also responsible for saving a large portion of the Shinobi Alliance in the 4th Great Shinobi War by being the one to figure out that Zetsu had infiltrated their ranks and had been taken out and replacing their personnel. After the fake Neji had entered her tent, he asks about Shizune, which prompts Sakura to tell him that she was working on Tauntaun's broken legs. The fake, not knowing Tauntaun is a pig, makes a remark about how lucky she was to not have a broken hand and asks if she will be able to rejoin the battle. Sakura instantly picks up on this and plays into it, saying Tauntaun can still weave signs, giving the Zetsu a false sense of security. Immediately after this, she interrogates the Zetsu, who gives up the information that they had already infiltrated the army, and also deduces that they use the chakra they absorb from the shinobi they fight to transform into the ninja completely with even their chakra imprint. Without this specific intel, it's highly unlikely that the alliance just loses the second day of the war, since their numbers would dwindle from the inside without them even knowing. Sakura's medical ninjutsu is also nothing to scoff at, and it's also kind of bizarre how much she accomplished with it. After undergoing the four-tailed transformation, Naruto was hit with the drawback of the form, that being the irreparable damage of the constant regeneration. Naruto is shown to have his entire skin burned off, but not only is Sakura able to heal the damage that was stated to be irreparable by Jiraiya, it's implied that the Nine-Tails accelerated healing was having trouble healing Naruto, which means that Sakura's basic healing was outperforming the Nine-Tails, and she was doing this while also being poisoned by Naruto, who had attacked her using his Nine-Tails cloak. In the war though, she essentially takes this feat and times it by the amount of shinobi in the alliance. During the New Age 3-way deadlock, Sakura stated that she was going to heal everyone on the battlefield. Not some, not just the Leaf Shinobi, but literally everyone on the battlefield using Katsuyu. And it should be noted that Katsuyu doesn't actually have the ability to heal people on her own. What she does is she uses her body as a conduit to transfer the 100 healings of the caster. The caster still has to perform the medical ninjutsu, which is why it's referred to as the caster performing Katsuyu's long distance healing. And mind you, Tsunade was visibly sweating, using a special seal and 4 other people just to heal the shinobi in the Leaf Village, while Sakura was doing this freehand in the middle of a war by herself on a much grander scale. It can also be argued that this was one of the most pivotal moments in the arc, since the shinobi that she healed were necessary for the tug of war against Jubito. The alliance barely managed to pull it off, even with the personnel they had, so imagine what would have happened if they were all just dead because Sakura wasn't there to heal them. And before y'all get mad, yes, I know that Naruto also protected the shinobi alliance, but both things can be true, and this isn't a comparison, I'm simply stating what happened. Sakura was also responsible for healing Kakashi after his fight with Obito, Guy, and Naruto, as well as also healing other members of the alliance moving into the final stretch of the war. She also healed Naruto after the Jubi Tenpenchi, which is obviously a critical move since Naruto had just exhausted all of his Kurama chakra tanking the attack, and I don't think I need to explain why keeping Naruto and Kakashi alive is important for the progression of the series. Another feat she has is cutting into Naruto's chest and manually pumping his heart after he had Kurama ripped out of him. People like to undermine this feat since Obito is the one to transfer Kurama back to Naruto, however Sakura was the one keeping him alive until he reached where Obito was. After Naruto's extraction, Sakura notes that Naruto had no heartbeat or pulse, however we know that he wasn't completely dead since Hagoromo verbatim says that he did not die yet. He further goes on to say that he does not have the ability to revive him, and it entirely depends on the actions of those outside, which is why Sakura decided to manually pump his heart to mimic an actual pulse, extending his life so he can travel the several kilometers to Obito. She also has some other minor healing feats, such as healing Hinata after she got one shot by Tendo, which some people try to downplay by saying that she would have been revived anyway. However, the Rinne Rebirth is never shown or stated to heal wounds, just rejuvenate chakra, and since all it does is just return the soul back to the target body, even if Hinata were revived, she'd be revived in the same state she was right before dying, which would be on the verge of death. Sakura is also responsible for saving Naruto and Sasuke's life after their fight in the final valley by healing the opened wound left by the clash. We can visibly see the blood rushing out, which sort of implies that they would have potentially died of blood loss if left unattended. It's also only after this that Naruto and Sasuke were able to even stand, which should give a bit of perspective into the state they were in and the help that Sakura gave them. Now moving along from just the healing application of her medical ninjutsu, we get into the other more adjacent skills that she picked up in her training, the most notable being her proficiency in poison craft and its effect on the body. After arriving in Sunagakure, she learns that Kankuro was heavily injured in his fight against Sasori, as well as the fact that he was poisoned. The Suna Shinobi also mentioned that they can't identify an antidote, which is significant for something I'm gonna mention in a bit. Despite this though, Sakura is able to use her chakra control to pull the poison directly from his bloodstream. This is obviously insane based on the very nature of poisons. As I just mentioned, the poisons don't just pull at the point of infection. To pull the poison out of somebody who has been poisoned for an extended period of time would require them to not only have a detailed and comprehensive understanding of human anatomy, but also chakra control so good you can track and retrieve the poison scattered across all the corners of the body. This is why Naruto, after seeing Sakura at work, thinks to himself that she's genuinely awesome. Now remember when I said that they couldn't identify an antidote for the poison? Well, Sakura not only created an antidote for it, but she made 3 batches. The first of which was used to cure Kankuro, but she converted the other 2 into hypodermic capsules that turn whatever poison you're exposed to into a harmless protein. This is extremely impressive on its own, however it gets actually better when you put into context the fact that Sasori himself states that the antidote is particularly difficult to mix and implies it would fail if there was even a slightest mistake, to the point that even the creator of the poison himself needs to reference his mix ratio table when mixing it. I did also forget to mention her nursing Naruto and Sasuke overnight in the Forest of Death, since it was in the previous section, but I think pointing it out here makes more sense even though it isn't directly medical ninjutsu. And speaking of Sasori, a lot of people have this perception that Sakura was completely carried by Chiyo in their fight, however that is just simply not the case. In the beginning of the fight, Chiyo says directly to Sakura that she cannot destroy the Hiroko shell to get to Sasori because she's nowhere near strong enough, and that only Sakura with her brute strength could get the job done. Mind you, Chiyo has access to the Chikamatsu 10 puppets, which even if she forbade herself from using, the alternate option would simply be death, and we know based on the fact that she did use it against Sasori later that she would do it if pushed into a corner, but even despite this, clearly states that she needs Sakura to get past the shell. Another downplay that is commonly said is that Sakura could only fight because she was being controlled by Chiyo, which is only half true. Because while yes, Sakura did require Chiyo's help to maneuver Sasori's attacks, that was only for the first section of the fight, and we are told why that had to be the case. Before they engaged in battle, Chiyo says that to evade the attacks of a puppet master, you must first understand their style and you must anticipate his moves instantly, which is something that is stated to take years of experience, but also in Chiyo's case, she knows the inner workings of Sasori's puppets so she can anticipate attacks before they get sent. But even against the third Kazekage puppet, we see that both Chiyo and Sakura are necessary to take them out, since Chiyo states that due to the third's magnetic force, her puppets, which are made out of iron and steel, are useless, which means that Sakura was literally the only person that could fight at this point. And this is important because after Sasori uses the needle sphere, Chiyo gets stuck under the debris and her connection to Sakura gets severed. So what Sakura does is not only tag the attack, she pretends to collapse from the poison, then reacts to the third Kazekage puppet on her own and smashes it to pieces with a single punch, something she was able to do because of the antidote that she created before entering the fight. She then goes on to heal Chiyo, save Chiyo from Sasori's propeller blades, then saves Chiyo again from being stabbed in the face by Sasori. And while yes, Chiyo was the one to land the final hit, this was only possible due to the help of Sakura and Sakura keeping her alive. And to be clear, when I'm saying all of this, I'm not saying this to put Sakura above Chiyo and say that she did more. I'm just pointing out that they both did stuff that are integral to the fight and without either of them, then they would simply just die. It's also Sakura that got Sasori to give up the information about Orochimaru since she had questioned him earlier in the fight. Without this information, then there is no Tenchi Bridge arc, no Sasuke reunion, or Four-Tailed Naruto versus Orochimaru, so that should count to progressing the story. Now at this point, we've covered most of the bigger stuff, but there are some other stuff that Sakura did that don't really fit under a specific category. The first of which being her teaching Naruto how to walk on walls and the principles behind it. After failing to complete the exercise, Naruto goes to Sakura for help, and it's revealed later that Sakura actually broke down the exercise completely for Naruto. She explains that it takes mental energy to generate and manipulate chakra, so if you get stressed out or distracted, it won't work. Take it easy, relax, and focus on the tree until you can feel how much or how little energy you'll need to center in the soles of your feet. But not only did she teach Naruto, Naruto went on to pass on the lesson to Sasuke, who asked Naruto directly to tell him what Sakura told him. And this is the same principle that Sasuke called back to when fighting Haku, where he charges the chakra in his feet to evade Haku's water spikes. You could then make the argument that Sasuke dies against Haku without Sakura's teaching, since he wouldn't have learned the technique fast enough, but that's neither here nor there. Another argument against this, which in my opinion is just ill-informed, is that Kakashi was the one to teach them how to perform the technique, but this just never happened. All Kakashi says to Team 7 is to put chakra at their feet and do the exercise with no further explanation. It would have been like if Jiraiya told Naruto that the Rasengan is a spiral ball of chakra, then just told him to do it. No explanation, just make the technique. Later in the Forest of Death, she brings Sasuke out of his stupor and gets him to lock in, which saves his life against Orochimaru. Sakura is also the one to release Naruto from Kabuto's Genjutsu during the Konoha Crush arc. People like to downplay it by pointing out that Kakashi was the one who told her to do it and he could have done it himself. However, Kakashi is in the middle of fighting and specifically chose her to do it since she was one of the few to resist the Genjutsu. And yes, Shikamaru was also able to resist it. However, he was never going to help and was content on pretending to sleep. And even through simple abductive reasoning, you can just come to the conclusion that if Kakashi could do it, then he would have simply done it himself. Later on in the Pain arc, after Naruto had undergone his six-tail transformation, Sakura was the one to take charge, directing Katsuyu to tell everyone to evacuate the area immediately to avoid the blowback from the Nine Tails, and also gave the orders to retrieve Hinata's body while still trying to get a hold of Yamato. Something else that people don't talk about is the fact that without her, Team 7 would not have survived the Kaguya fight. Obito says that he'll need an enormous amount of chakra to open a rift in Kaguya's time-space and rescue Sasuke, to which Naruto responds by offering the chakra of a shadow clone, but Obito states that it isn't enough. However, he says that Sakura's chakra would give him the bare minimum. We later find out that Obito vastly underestimated her reserves since she was able to give Obito 3 shots worth of interdimensional Kamui because he fails his first 2 shots until he finally finds Sasuke on the 3rd. But touching back on her chakra being more than Naruto's clones, we know that Naruto had only made 1 clone, and it stated that the Shadow Clone Jutsu evenly distributes chakra among the clones, which would mean that with there being only 1 clone, Sakura would have to have more than half of Naruto's full chakra, which shouldn't be that inconsistent since Sakura had been pumping chakra into the Byakugo sealer for the past 3 years. But with that being said, that's pretty much it for the video. I hope y'all enjoyed it just as much as I enjoyed making it. I'll catch y'all in the next one. Bye B.